What an interesting episode of Tower of God. What a mixture of emotions. And I think that's what I took away most from it was, yeah, there were some funny moments, but there were also some very serious moments. And like every single episode of the series so far, it's made me ask questions, and it's made me more interested in some of the characters. So the first thing I want to talk about is the system of these princesses of Jihad. Um, we knew from before that they're not actually like blood related. They're sort of like picked, like recruited into this position. So not actual sisters. And we know, I believe they're each given one of those monthly weapons, the Black March and the Green April and stuff like that. But this episode talked about some of the restriction that they have. We had heard that it made this uproar when Anaak's mother decided to settle down and have a family of her own. It turns out that the princesses are not allowed to do this. Um, and so that was a big no-no. And so it's established that they're not allowed to uh, wed, have a family. I don't think be with anybody at all, um, romantically. So, man, that's and I don't know enough in this world if I don't know how much entitlement is given to princesses. It seems like you could sort of be one and people don't really know. So I don't know how noticeable it is. I don't know how secretive it is, but it doesn't seem like it's really worth the drawbacks at this time. And obviously, Knox mom didn't agree with it either. We get this cool sort of like flashback during. So Anaak and my girl Endorsi are, still fighting it out in their test, trying to knock each other down, and it ends sort of jovially. It ends sort of communicating with them, like pinching each other, but they're having a lot of like back and forth about Anaak's mother and sort of the decisions that she made, and they knock each other down below, and and while they're down there, they have this cool conversation about how. And Dorsey asks Anaak basically like, do you think your mom regretted anything? And then we get flashbacks to Anaak's childhood, where she was this little kid and she finds this like gemstone thing, and her mom says it's really really pretty looking and stuff like that. Her mom likes it, and it's this flashback to their sort of calm life, and then this is like abruptly distorted by the fact that the princesses or whoever came to uh, attack Anaak's mother, uh, you know, causes all the chaos. And as she's pushing little baby Anaak away, says to flee. Little baby Anaak goes to give her mother that same gem, and her eyes swell with tears, and it's this cool moment. Like I said, the little brawl that they have here ends pretty funnily, I guess. That might just be a made up word I just did. But it ends rather comedically, is how an adult talks. Um, and then we get this cool like flashback moment. And it's when they're both sitting down there, it's almost like in Dorsey and Enoch kind of having like the girl to girl chat of, and Dorsey questioning, the motives of Enoch's mom, and saying, well, do you think that she would have regretted it? And Enoch says that no, I don't think she did. And I kind of think that like there might be some jealousy to Endorsi here, because Endorsi's constantly talking about how she's this pretty girl character, as we all know, and as I've made clear about my thoughts about this character. She's this very pretty young woman, very into makeup and how she looks and her clothes and stuff like that, and her appearance, and describes herself as like this great beauty and stuff like that. And how dare you hit me, such a beauty and stuff like that. However, we know that as a princess, she's basically doomed to a life of being alone, which seems like it really, really sucks. So I wonder how fearful she is of that. I wonder if maybe she's doing this tower thing to somehow change that fate. I don't know. Um, but I think that hopefully this implies that we're going to get some more depth to her character, because she's already, ever since she was first introduced, it seemed like she might just be this like one-off like villain type thing. When she was first in that other game, when she was like, it's okay if we kill them, right? Seems like, typical anime villain that might get a cool fight and then be gone for a long time. And Dorsey, I'm happy to say, seems like a character that's going to be around for a little bit. um, Again, I'm anime only, so webtoon people, do not spoil me down below, please. But I'm liking Endorsi more and more. They have their little sort of heart to heart conversation. Uh, then we get back into like sort of like Bam. Oh, by the way, so they're both severely, Endorsi and Anaak are very, very injured by their by falling during their little battle thing there. So they're both in recovery, which they have to like pay their currency for, by the way. So they don't even have money like for food. So Bam, being Mr. Nice Guy, he's really Mr. Nice Guy in this episode. Pays to sort of get them food. Of course, pushed by Khun, who's always a schemer. Khun is always seemingly like steps ahead of people, but goes to basically share food with both Endorsi and Anaak. This is another, goes back to being rather jovial. You get scenes of like them describing Endorsi as this pretty young woman, uh, just so they would sign like the friendship sheet that they have. Uh, and then with Anaak, Anaak loved the chicken pies that her father used to make, and talks about them when in the flashback when she was a kid. And so they bring in this like delicious smelling chicken pie, and she, freaks out with happiness and stuff like that. So some cool scenes of there of just Bam being a nice dude, and Endorsi and Anaak being serious and jovial at the same time, revealing a little bit of what it means to be a princess, and how it kind of sucks. It kind of seems like it would be bad. I'm sure there are some perks to it, but I don't know if a life of like solitude like that is that appealing. And they describe it, I believe, as like they're sort of like shoes. They're sort of like fancy shoes that you would see on display, or something fancy you would have on display, like a possession almost. And that kind of seems like it sucks, and I could see why you would want to change that. Um, uh, and then this episode also goes into like the wave controllers and how Bam is seemingly having like a sort of easy job developing his wave controller power. Shooting the targets with his like water beams things. A character that really interests me right now is Ho, I believe, is his name. He's another wave controller, uh, you know, character, I guess. Um, a climber of the tower, regular, I guess. I don't know what term I should use for everybody going on here. Uh, he's this wave controller guy, and on the outside, he puts forward this like very like friendly sort of side, but we've seen when people aren't really around, he's I don't know if he's like evil yet, but he seems like he sort of hides a lot. Like he has a facade on a lot of the time. We saw in the previous episode that he was seemingly more pressured by his wave controller training than he really let on. Seems like that some sort of pressure is weighing on him, and it's also the fact that I think it's because it's becoming so easy to Bam, and he's like, I wonder who this Bam guy really is, and his teammate, the sleeping guy, Loro, I think his name is, actually helps Bam out a little bit because he helped him find his pillow. That was pretty funny as well. Um, and he kind of just like repeats the mantra that Ho was talking about the previous episode about like helping out weak people. Like, isn't that like a good thing? And Ho's really questioning a lot about Bam at the moment, and I'm questioning a lot about Ho at the moment as a viewer, because I'm like, I want to know more about this guy. I'm hoping we know. He also finds this like letter outside his room that says like, "So you want to climb the tower, or do you wish to climb the tower?" He goes to open it, and he's really, really shocked and surprised about whatever's in it. Whatever's in there makes him immediately run back into his room, and then he's in this sort of upset mood when we move on to this next test, um, which is this game of tag led by this guy named Quant, who the previous tester, the other, I can't remember his name, the blonde guy, the other proctor, administrator, if you will, is sort of upset that they're letting Quant be in charge of this next test. So the remaining 28 that haven't passed already, so that's everybody besides Rock and the other big dude from Team Rachel. I'm going to call him Team Rachel. Who's going by Michelle, by the way. That's a whole other thing. So they're all taking part in this game of tag, and it's described that it's going to be, the two teams of 14, I would assume, are broken up amongst their. So there's the light bearers, the fishermen, stuff like that. Each team has to have a fisherman, I believe, as their it, and then the tower administration has this guy as it. This guy Quant, who is, I guess, described as like, sort of like the craziest of like these proctor administrator people. Like he kind of seems like a little bit of a loose cannon, and we see that towards the end of this episode when Khun and Anaak and the purple jumpsuit guy and their sort of team kind of like double trap him. Like they kind of get him to fall for bait like twice. And he does not seem very happy to be deceived by people of this rank, I guess. And the administration seems to be kind of worried about that. Like, should we really let this guy be in charge? So that'd be really interesting going to the other episode. One thing that I was just noticing that I sort of skipped on was Rachel. Like I said, Rachel kind of falling toward the back, in my opinion here. But she's still sort of seemingly, lock herself up in her room and stuff like that, and sort of just like questioning, or I guess trying to justify her own actions to herself, trying to convince herself that what she's doing is the right thing. She's going by this alias of Michelle, I believe. And she has this chat with Endorsi, and Endorsi is joking around with her. And as Rachel goes to leave the room, she's saying like, I hope what you get at the top of the tower is worth losing, Bam. Something along those lines. And that makes Rachel sort of stop and think, and she gets all kind of pissed at Endorsi for bringing this topic up, even though that's definitely what she's thinking about all the time. Like, she's locking herself in her room, eating a whole bunch of food, really stressed out about the situation. And I don't really see Rachel changing all that much anytime soon. I don't really see us necessarily knowing her reasons for doing what she's doing anytime soon. So I'm less and less interested in like what she's doing, and I think the show does a good job of like introducing all of these other characters that are really, really interesting. Not that she's like a bad character. I just think that she's like, I don't really perceive her as being like the nicest person, and I don't know. I feel like Bam's life can almost be better if he seeks like adventure and like other things and stuff like that, and I don't know. But then again, this girl was like his everything. So the game of tag seems pretty interesting. I'm excited for this next episode where this Quant guy takes things. I want to see what happens with Ho, who put that letter by his room. I'd like to see more Iraq. That would be cool. He's very briefly in here. Like I said, he's already sort of like past the stage, I believe. He's just sitting in a room eating a bunch of candy bars. Which, by the way, there are so many candy bars in this anime. This anime, it might have the most candy bars out of any anime I've ever seen in my life. Because our man Rack, I mean, I get it with the bag, with Khun's bag, it can like duplicate objects. But there's a scene where Rack's just like pounded down like a a gourd full of candy bars, and that was funny to see. I want to get more Iraq. I want to, even though this episode didn't have a ton of Bam, I like how Bam was just this nice, inquisitive kid. Doesn't know a lot about the world. No, does not know a lot about the world around him. And my girl Endorsi, best girl so far on the show. But yeah, I'm really interested to get to know more. Can't wait for the next episode. I had a mixture of emotions with this one. That's what I think I liked most about it. I had a little bit of action. Could have had a little bit more, but I like the character development that we're getting here, especially when we have somebody like Endorsi that could have just been a one-off sort of villain thing, and she has more and more layers to her as we watch. So let me know what you guys thought about episode 7 of Tower of God down below. Again, remember, I'm anime only here. Please try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. What are you guys thinking of this anime so far? Do you like it? Is it not your thing? And who's your favorite character thus far? Is it, Endorsi like me? I like Anaak a lot too. Anaak's really cool, but for reasons, I'm going to pick Endorsi for very valid reasons. But yeah, thank you so much. If you like what I'm doing here, please hit that subscribe button. And if you really, really, really like what I'm doing here, please consider joining the Patreon link down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Miasma, and I'll see you next time.